Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is sponsored by Yossi Levy as a Seudat Hoda'ah. Also dedicated for the Fu'ah Shlema of Rabbani Chanafar Chana Batzim Fega and Eliyahu Shimon Memazaf Odun Rabbi Eli Abadi. Also for the Fu'ah Shlema of Shalom Yaakov Ben Atara. And in loving memory of Sinai Tur, Chosh Bachsh, Alea Shalom, Lilu Nishmat Sinai Tur Bat Shokrola, Alea Shalom for 11 months. Sponsored by her son Maurice Chosh. Also, anonymously dedicated to everyone struggling with infertility issues, to be able to build the family they've always dreamed for. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should answer their prayers as quickly as possible. Baslacha Rabbah. Hazaku Baruch to Dr. Baruch Abitan for his empathy, expertise, and advocacy. Hashem Shvat Tfilati, Shavati Elecha Tavo, Al Testeh Benecha Meni, Yom Tzali, Ateh Elai Oznencha, Yom Ekra Yom Ekra, Hashem Ta'aneni, I think that's supposed to say. Dedicated for the Fu'ah Shlema and successful surgery today of Rabbi Eliezer Ben Sarah, sponsored by Dr. Navi Rahmani. In loving memory of Morris Sultan Moshe Ben Adel on his Azkara, sponsored by his son Abraham Sultan. In loving memory of Stephen Wagner, Alav Shalom. Linishpat Shmuel Yaakov Ben Mordechai on his Azkara, sponsored by his children Robert and Nancy M. Wagner. In loving memory of Ivan's grandmother Rachel Cohen. Lilunishmat Rahel Bat Bela, an exceptional woman whose life was an inspiration of kindness to her family and the people around her, donated by Ivan and Ariel Maman. And finally, in loving memory of Shaul Daba, Lilunishmat Shaul Shalom Hillel Ben Zakir, sponsored by Marcel Daba and family. Please only answer Amen if you are listening to this live. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol yeh baro. Okay, let's begin. The pasuk says, Ki yeh leish ben sorer u'moreh. When there will be to a person, ben sorer u'moreh, a wayward or rebellious son, eneno shomea kol aviv v'kol imo. He does not listen to the voice of his father and the voice of his mother. So there's a famous question that's asked by the Kotzker. He asks such a sharp question. He says, if you tell me that a child is rebellious, do you have to tell me that he doesn't listen? By definition, a rebellious child is a child that is rebelling, right? That's the point. So he's not listening to his mother and father. So why does it say ben sorer u'moreh enenu shomea v'kol aviv u'v'kol imo? He does not listen to the voice of his mother and father. And the Kotzker explains something so beautiful, something that I think we all know deep in our subconscious, but it's very difficult to admit it. And in fact, what we hear in the story of the Ben Sorer U'moreh is that when the father and mother bring their child to the Beit Din, what do they come to Beit Din and say? They walk into the Beit Din and they say, our son is Ben Sorer U'moreh, Zolel V'Soveh, he's dealing with trying to have only the finest things in life, Enenu Shomea B'Kolenu, he doesn't listen to our voice. Most of the times you look at this and you see a parent or parents complaining to the Beit Din about how their child turned out. But perhaps, says the Kotzker, there's a way of looking at it which is a little bit different. Rather, you want to know why this child today is Ben Sorer U'moreh. You want to know why he is this way. It's not because he's not listening to your voice. It's because he didn't hear your voice. There was once a man who came to the rabbi and he said, Rabbi, I need a blessing. He said, what for? He said, there's someone in the community, they have a small house, a small apartment, a lot of kids. They need to expand the house, they need more room. It's expensive to get a bigger apartment or to do construction. I need a beracha that he should have a bigger apartment. And the rabbi was smiling. And he said, Rabbi, what are you smiling about? He said, it used to be that when you had a small apartment, you had 10 kids, and there was nowhere to sit, and there was nowhere to sleep. Where did the kids put their mattresses? Everywhere. I still remember there was a family when I was growing up, they had 21 kids in their family, okay? Unbelievable. So I asked one of these kids, I was like, how do you live? 21 kids, one wife. By the way, at the time, his parents were married for 23 years. They had 21 kids in 23 years, no twins, triplets, quadruplets, all natural, one after the next, after Yishtabach Shemo. Their family car was a school bus. Not joking. Family car was a school bus. And fascinating, fascinating, no TV, okay? Fascinating was that it was so expensive to get family insurance that the guy became an insurance broker just so he can afford insurance, okay? So anyway, I asked one of the kids, I was like, wow, how do you guys live? And you know what the guy said? He said, what do you mean? It's fine, easy, no problem. He says, every night, 9 o'clock, I kick everyone out of the dining room. I put my mattress on the dining room table, and the dining room's mine. For him, he was like bragging to me that he has his own room. Never mind that his own room is also the dining room, okay? But this is his life. And you know what was amazing? He felt comfortable. He felt happy. He felt like he had his own room, even though his room was the dining room. But my friends, when your room is the dining room, said the rabbi, Rav Michal, I think it was Rav Michal Feinstein, said to this guy, he said back then, he had a father. He sat down to learn, to learn at night when he got home from work. So he sits down to work, okay, to learn. Now where is kids sleeping? There is no room in the bedrooms. So there's 3 kids on the couch, 2 kids in the dining room, right? The apartment's, 10 feet wide, 20 feet long. When the father's learning, every single kid in the house hears his father learning. Now you have the east wing and the west wing, okay? There's upstairs and downstairs. You have your own study, your own office. So it's great. You have privacy. You have privacy to study without interruption. The kids are not bothering you. The kids are not crying. But you know what else the kids are not doing? They're not hearing you study. They're not watching you learn. I always say to myself that one of the best things that COVID did was there was an explosion of Torah learning during COVID. I probably taught more Torah during COVID than I ever taught in my life. Because people were starving for it. And they had nothing to do and nowhere to go. But the idea for me was not just the increase in Torah learning. You know what's so special about COVID Torah learning? It was that the kids saw their father and mother studying Torah. When do parents study Torah? The father goes in the morning, he comes to breakfast and the class. The kid doesn't see his father studying. When does the mother go to, when kids go to school, she has a class, 12 o'clock, like we have Pirkei Avot here in the synagogue. She goes to Rabbi Sutton, Rabbi Diamond's class. Does the kid see the mother studying? No. So what does the kid see? The kid sees a mother and father that tell him to study, but he never sees them study. That never works. You know what the kid learns? The kid learns that he should also tell his kids to study and never study himself. Now it's true you might be studying, but did your kids see it? Someone sent me a picture during COVID, which actually was Isaac and Jen Sit. Bezat Hashem, we should see Refuah Shlema for Simcha Bat Sofia. Okay? They sent me a picture. Oh, it was a class I did on Thursday night in COVID. That was a big class that I did, the Zoom class. A picture of all the family sitting on the couch, and the big screen, the flat screen TV, I don't know how many inches, big one. And my face is on the flat screen TV. Yani, they're all sitting with popcorn. But they learned that together as a family. So the kids saw it. Says the Kutzker. You want to know why the kid got to this place? It doesn't mean he doesn't listen to what his father's telling him to do, what his mother's telling him to do. He doesn't hear his father saying, Shnayim mochzim betalit. Doesn't hear his father saying the words of the Mishnah, the words of the Gemara, the words of the Chumash. We must take time in our day to fill our house with the sound of Torah. I want to share something with you. Somebody sent me only a couple days ago. He meets this young kid, little kid. He asks him what he wants to be when he grows up. A lot of kids, what do they say when they want to be grow? What do you want? Ask a kid, here, what do you want to be when you grow up? When you grow up, he wants to be a policeman. You're already being defunded from now, by the way. He wants to be a policeman. Young guy wants to be a fireman. Want to be an astronaut. That's what kids want to be. Find me a kid that wants to be an accountant, by the way. You don't find, right? What do kids want to be? They want to be these jobs. He asks the little kid, the kid says, I want to be a Talmid Chacham.
Oh, I know.
What do you want to be?
A worker that does construction
A worker does construction because he loves building. Fantastic. Okay? How rare is it that a kid says, I want to be a Talmid Chacham? So the rabbi pulls the kid over afterwards and he says, you're such a young boy, I'm surprised I never get the answer that you want to be a Talmid Chacham. Why do you want to be a Talmid Chacham? And listen what this child said. Kid says, my father is from the community. He's an immigrant, he came here from another country. And he set up a fast food restaurant. Now you know a fast food restaurant, the hours are crazy. And it's not like a fancy restaurant that you have an upsell. You take a piece of meat and you could sell it for $150 steak in a fancy restaurant. Every sandwich, you're making a small margin on. Fast food can't be expensive food. So he works in one of these fast food stores, they making sandwiches. All day, all night, days preparing. Till late at night he's making the sandwiches. He comes back, he says, I could see my father's exhausted. But what does he do? He sits down, after he gets home from work, can barely keep his eyes open, but he wakes himself up, he has a coffee, he opens his Gemara, and he starts to study. And I know how hard it is for my father to study, and I see how important it is for my daddy, how much my dad loves it. So I want to be a Talmid Chacham. Isn't that gorgeous? Enenu shomea b'kol avi v'kol imo. My friends, I want to ask you a question. You have a choice in this life. Everybody in this life is able, it's easy, it's almost natural for us to complain about how things are when we don't like how they are. But complaining gets you nowhere. Not only do you have the problem that you had, now you have a second problem. People don't realize that. When you complain about problems, you just added one more problem. You know what you just added? Your complaints. Before you had a problem that you weren't feeling well. Before you had a problem that you didn't get a raise. Before you had a problem that you didn't get the thing, the promotion you wanted, whatever. Now you have two problems. You don't have the promotion, and you're in a negative state of mind. My friends, listen carefully. Says the pasuk, instead of you saying, I can't believe my kid's like this, he's not listening to me, ask yourself, maybe there's a reason why he's not listening to me. Maybe it's not that he didn't listen to you. Maybe it's that he didn't hear you. And when you switch the script, when you flip the script that way, you start to realize that actually, maybe there's another road, another approach to be able to change the things that you don't like. A lot of times people will tell me, Rabbi, it's too late. I didn't study Torah in my house. My kid never saw me do it. So what do I do now that my kid doesn't care about Judaism? What do I do now? And sometimes that's a question which is very difficult to answer. You raised a child that doesn't care anything about Judaism. Why? Because you made fun of it, you didn't think it was important, you said Hajj, you didn't go, you didn't make the effort for shul, you didn't make the effort to learn. So now what does the kid say in his mind? This is not an important thing. If it's not an important thing, then everything is on the table because it's not an important thing. So what's the answer? One way is to try and change a child. But there's another way. And the other way is that you try and change yourself. But you try and change yourself in front of your child. You're not fixing yourself for them. You're recognizing that they are a product of what you have done and what you've invested. Now, obviously, there are many cases where a parent has done everything that they could. They did the most that they could. And they did it in front of the child. And the kid still has free will. End of the day, you can have the best parents who do the most, engage the most, invest the most. But sometimes, if that's the case, so you say it's his free will and you figure something else out. But if it's not, what do we have to do? I want to share with you a story that to me speaks volumes. There was a young boy who was a brilliant kid, genius. And by the time he was already a young boy, there was not a rabbi in town that could teach him anything. Could you imagine that? Imagine they walk in with a kid, he's 8 years old. He's finished in school. None of the rabbis at school. So you bring him to the rabbi at the knis. The rabbi, the knis, sits down to learn with him. The kid knows more than the rabbi. Take him to the chief rabbi of the city. The kid knows more than the chief rabbi. What are you going to do? The family realizes how bright this child is, what a star he could become. They seek out the most incredible Talmid Chacham, and they tell him, please come to our town and study with our child. We want you to tutor our child. Okay, this kid is 8 or 9 or 10 years old. Anyway, they come up with a price. The price is 300 rubles. And when's the kid going to start? Right after Pesach. Okay, this rabbi got to feed his family. The money is good, 300 rubles, besides for all of his expenses. Isru Chag, which is the day after Pesach. For the Moroccans, that's the Mimuna, okay? The kid comes downstairs, he sees his mother is crying in the kitchen. He said, Ma, is everything okay? What's the matter? The mother says, she's just repeating to herself, another day, can't believe it, it's gone. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Maybe we didn't sacrifice enough. And the kid's getting nervous. What's his mother so upset about? He says, Ma, what's the issue? She says, you know, we looked far and wide to find someone that could teach you. We found this tremendous Talmid Chacham. We agreed with him a price, 300 ruble, and he's going to come and teach you after Pesach. She said, already a whole day is gone. And he's not here yet. Maybe 300 ruble wasn't enough, even though it's a big sacrifice for us. But compared to what we're getting, maybe it wasn't a big enough sacrifice. Maybe someone else offered him more. Maybe for his parnasah, he needed to go somewhere else. He says, Ma, it's only one day after Pesach. You told him to come after Pesach. Maybe he's coming tomorrow. And the mother says, yes. But what about today? How are we going to make up for today? She says, we'll learn tomorrow. She says, well, tomorrow you were going to learn tomorrow anyway. Today you can never get back. And he sees his mother's crying. She's going crazy. I want to share with you who that child was. You know what his name was? Rav Moshe Shapira. And it's not by accident that Rav Moshe Shapira started one thing that is still dominant in Am Yisrael. And what did he start? Daf Yomi. And the core principle of Daf Yomi is what? That everyone is studying the same thing on the same day. But you know what the most important thing everyone who teaches Daf Yomi will tell you is? More important than the Daf is the Yomi. Is that it's every day. And people would ask him, can I take one day off? I'm on vacation. I'll just, Daf Yomi doesn't take off a day on Yom Kippur. They don't take off a day on Rosh Hashanah. They don't take off a day on Tisha B'Av. They can't learn it during the day, so you got to learn it after. Because you're not allowed to learn it on the day. But there's never a day off. Because what is a day without Torah? My friends, you know how Rav Moshe Shapira came up with the idea for Daf Yomi? I would like to think, you probably would like to think, that he was sitting one day in his study, genius, brilliant, even from the time he was a kid. You know what we should do? We should all study Gemara together. I agree with you. He probably came up with it. But it wasn't his idea. It was an imprint from seeing his mother crying in the kitchen that one day went by without Torah learning. And how could such a thing exist? Do you understand? My friends, what is this thing that is so important to us? Torah. What is it? How does it guide our life? How does it command us and instruct us in every step that we take? How does it do it? We know that the Torah is meant to be a blueprint for every minute of our life. How do you communicate that to another generation? There is only one way. The ta'avot, the pleasures of this world, they scream very loud. Madam Minan, you find yourself during this month in Times Square. There's a 90-foot billboard of some girl wearing nothing. Look at how much they're investing to catch your eyes. Look at how big the pictures are. Look at how much money they'll spend to give an advertisement in the middle of the Super Bowl. $5 million to get you to think that if you buy this beer, you're going to have a great time with your friends. It will be great memories created between a father and son. All those moments that they show you in these advertisements, making you think to yourself, wow, look at a father and son sharing a beer. Ah, I want to have that with my dad. The world is spending so much time, money, focus, energy, trying to catch your attention to sell you something. How are we selling this? How much effort are we putting into advertising for the Torah? Now let's learn something from all of these capitalist companies trying to get you to buy their product. They know something very simple. You can't come to someone and say, buy this beer. Can't do that. No one will buy your beer. What do you need to do if you want to get them to buy a beer? You want to get them to buy your shorts. You want to get them to buy your sneakers. You got to get the coolest basketball player to wear your sneakers. You know why? Let the kid think to himself, you know something? That basketball player wears those sneakers? I got to have those sneakers. Imagine Nike decides, here's my new campaign. They get a doctor from Cornell to say, these sneakers, they give you excellent ankle support. They're fantastic so you don't get plantar fasciitis. Not one kid is buying those shoes. Not one. Right? But you have Usain Bolt, put on a pair of running shoes, and every kid thinks, wow, fastest guy wears those sneakers? I need those sneakers. By the way, you know what's crazy? Even when you're old enough to realize that this is stupidity. I'm not going to be Usain Bolt eating Dunkin' Donuts. I always love that, right? You know the advertisement for Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkins. I'm laughing. America does not run because of Dunkins. We waddle. Yeah, now listen, this is so important. Even though you know that you're not going to be Usain Bolt for wearing those sneakers, it still works. Even though you know you're not going to play ball like, whoever, I don't know who the last, like LaMelo or who the new sneaker is, I don't know. Right? It might have been John Morant until he started pulling guns out every 3 minutes, right? You know it, but the ad still works. And you know how we know the ad still works? Because they're still spending millions and millions of dollars to do that. My friends, I don't know if you have millions of dollars to spend on advertising Torah to your kids, but how are you figuring out that this mitzvah, that this Torah, your kids should know that scene of the father and son sharing a beer, or that scene of of friends having fun together, or that scene where the kid thinks, I gotta have that. Because your kid will desire something. It'll either be meat and fine wine, or it will be Torah and mitzvot. It's up to you what that will be. Now, obviously, to a point, kid still has free will. But you know what I want at night? I want to know at night with my kids. I know they're going to have free will. But I want to know at night that whatever I did was the max that I could have done to present it to them in a way where they see it, not as being a pain in the neck, not as being a hassle. If you say when you go to shul, oh, silichot's killing me. So early, dichit, kill me now. What does your kid hear? Even if you go to silichot, that silichot's not a good time. Praying is a pain in the neck. Studying Torah, you have to do it. I don't want to do it. I have to do it. If that's what they hear, eneno shomea bekol aviv bekol imo. He's not hearing the sound of his mother and father pushing this in a way where he wants to do it. So when the father and mother come to Beit Din, you know what they say? He's zolel v'soveh. But we admit, eneno shomea bekolenu. He never heard us. I just wanted to give a quick example of something. The other day, a package came to my house, and I got very excited. And my family asked me, "Wow, what are you so excited about? What's in the package from Amazon?" I just want to show you what's in the package. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. I just want to show you what that is. Can anyone see that? Yeah. These are bookmarks. See that? For my sefarim. But the crazy thing about these bookmarks is that they're numbered. So I prepare classes on Shabbat, and I have 10 different, 15 different sources I'm going to bring into the class. So when I'm preparing, and you have a paper clip, and then you want to put it all together, it's out of order. So I have now paper clips that are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 14th thing that I saw, which is the first thing I'm going to use, I could put the 1 there, and the 2 there, and the 3 there. And my kids saw me get so excited that this arrived in the mail. Do you understand that? That's called Aviva Kol Imo. You got a new book. It arrived from Amazon. You get so excited. Your kids saw that. You got your new car. You got more excited. What did the child learn? Car Torah. Or car house Torah. Or car house steak. Beer. Vacation. Hashem should bless us to get excited about things in that way. My friends, it is my beracha and my blessing that we all understand a deep truth. Someone once came to the stipler and they asked him, what makes a kid? Listen to what he said. What makes a kid? How do you tell your kids what to do, teach them what to do? You know what he said? 10% is what you tell your kids. 30% is what your kids see you do. And 60% is the work you put into building yourself before that kid even came into the world. I always looked at that line and it blows me away. And I'll end with this, like I said. People think it's too late. It's never too late. If you're a grandpa and you start coming to classes, you know who sees? Your son. Maybe it's a little bit late for him, but his kids see that grandpa comes to class. You didn't get it with generation X, get it with generation Y. Get it with generation Z. Figure out how to make that next level impact. And by the way, when you figure out how to change course, a lot of times your kids also think to themselves, if my father reinvented himself, maybe I can too. That's the 60% of Einenu Shomea B'Kol Aviv B'Kol Imo. Hashem should bless us, Be'ezrat Hashem, to raise generations that we can be proud of, that Be'ezrat Hashem are a little bit greater than us, a little bit further, more developed than us, because we gave them a beautiful, strong foundation to build on. Baruch Adonai Le'olam.